I want
when you're
to
dealing with
talk
this
a little
high
because you've
caliber,
been in this
nobody likes
business
to
for
waste
20 plus
resources.
years, okay? And you've been around the corner. You've been through all the ups and downs and so forth. Salvatore, you mentioned obviously all these pillars, these hurdles. This is your criteria, your methodology, right? How has that evolved since you first started to now? And what were that evolution that you started with to now?
It was interesting. I mentioned it in the book, and I had a pivot in 2013 because we were just coming out of the Great Recession. Rates were going low, okay, and values were going up. And as someone who's traditionally distressed focused in real estate, it sort of went against the fabric of my being to sort of overbid on something just to say that I would overbid and have the asset. And I was actually outbid by a bunch of doctors and dentists who had signature lines of credit or using their home equity lines, and they were outbidding me on what's called necessity retail in Midwest. And these things were trading at a 10 cap going back to Moses, right? And they were, if anybody knows about this, the more you pay, the lower the cap rate. And so they were bidding the equivalent of like an 8 cap rate. So they were going 200 basis points faster than I was, or over what I wanted to do. And I just put, I honestly, and I had it was just to me, and it was just I had to bury the ego, and I gave back $19 million. And nobody likes to do that without putting a gun to your head, but it was sort of like, look, we got outbid. If we got into this deal, I would never have been able to get you out alive. This went against everything. And, basically it was a lawyer, trying to force me to bid up because he had already seen the proof of funds and everything. And he's like, well, what are you going to do? Give it back, son? I'm like, yeah. And there was a few expletives after that, but, just trust me that I was in full New York mode that day. And I gave the money back. And the money came back, and one of my mentors, and I was going through a little bit of a personal struggle with that life. I just lost my brother not too long after in 2015, very spontaneously. And I called one of my mentors in New York who I've invested into, and he has 69 IPOs and sales under his belt. He's close to 80, very wealthy, and he is one of the founding fathers of venture capital. And it was one of these things in my life where real estate wasn't really going anywhere for me at the time, because I'm, more of like a distressed guy and I need to show value rather than overbid, and look where that's getting people today. And I said, I'd really like to start a venture fund and start investing into some of the things you're doing. And he said, with his thick Persian accent, well, let's do this. And over the course of the week, I was able to get a lot done as far as structuring it. But it was that hard pivot where I learned that I kept to I had to keep to my guns. And I think a lot of people would have taken money from people just to make money, but they would have ruined themselves later. And this guy always told me to focus on quality. And that's why we have the world-class venture fund that I manage, and also, the multifamily office HRN, which has a lot of venture in it too as well. And if you go to hrn.llc or harlemrivernavy.org, you'll be able to see this and some of those names. We are in the midst of updating that. However, if you are on the website and you do want to, you can obviously go to sal@hrn.llc and send an email, and I'll get you on to the email distribution. But you'll see that we have a lot of world-class people that we work with because we've always attended to that quality. And if it wasn't the relationship I had with that one gentleman, I don't think I would have the partners I have today. I don't think I would have the success I would have today. Even, and some of the other things too. And even though we haven't done a lot of real estate, since the pandemic because we were waiting for rates to go up and everything, to me that was an important skill set because I had to build on the salesmanship of myself to influence people to invest in something that nobody really likes to invest into. And that was sort of like an intellectual challenge for me because, it kept me from being depressed, sort of. I was still kind of upset and everything. But it really forced me to try to focus on, all right, here's the next challenge. Raise tens of millions of dollars, which is the equivalent of hundreds of millions of dollars, for life science companies. And try to get people's attention to do this who don't want to invest in life sciences because they don't want to be bored and reminded of high school biology and chemistry again. So we had to make it fun and interactive, but we were able to lever the successes of our CEOs and also the stories and their credibility in order to raise tens of millions of dollars into these deals. And the rest is history on that. And just recently, back in January or early February, we received news that one of our companies just received FDA approval for their personal defibrillation device. It's called a PED, and it's one of the hardest things to get from the FDA. This is a team that's 27 years old. There's a story behind this, but their father's a rock star CEO. Again, network relationships. And they were able to get an FDA device for the first mobile defibrillator. So think about it, all the unfortunate norms that are happening right now in the football fields, both in the professional leagues and also as it relates to high schools. You have a lot of these kids who are just going into cardiac arrest. Now every mom, coach, high school, brother, uncle is going to have one of these defibrillation devices that's really the size of one of your iPods that you can charge and use clear with your cell phone, and it'll be powered by your cell phone. If you're interested in that, I'm not. Again, I'm not a salesperson, but if you go to aviveaed.com or Avive Solutions, AVIVE, you'll be able to pick one
I
up
love
for
that,
yourself
and
carry
it was
your
just
purse
because of that pivot
or car,
that actually helped you
and,
integrate
to me, that's the
kind of
massive impact that
character
people
or
make,
that
because when
ability
you
to
start
be able to
pivoting
see
towards
and
that, you
attract
start
those
looking at
higher
the
quality
impact, the
individuals,
quality,
and that has been
then people start to
the
get a lot more
serendipitous
emotionally
moments
engaged.
throughout your whole journey in a lot of different ventures, which is really awesome.